Hi folks, my name is Bill Mues. Today I'm here with Bill Thomas. He's the Friends of Liberty United president and founder. And I'm also with John Becker. He's one of the Union Township trustees and he's also our former state rep. Today we just want to take some time and talk to you about some issues and kind of give you a heads up about what's going on in the township. Bill, as president and founder of Friends of Liberty United, is going to kind of give us an overview of what's going on. Bill, what's going on with Friends of Liberty? How did you get this going?
Well, Bill, Friends of Liberty was founded, it's kind of a funny story, in my basement. A group of us got together and we discussed, we're frustrated with the issues going on at the state level, federal level, and what can we do to fix these problems? You know, it's one thing to sit and be a keyboard warrior on Facebook and be upset about what's going on, but it's another thing to actually promote action and trying to change what's happening. We see it in the school boards, we see it in our local government, and we see it at the state government level. And these are all areas that local grassroots homeowners can get involved and make change to. When you get into the federal level, it gets a little more complex, a little more time consuming. So we've tried to focus more on the local and state level politics so that we can be most effective. And Friends of Liberty was founded not this past January, we just celebrated our 1-year anniversary this past January. Was founded back in 2020 when when COVID really was kicking in. We got together and right about, I think our first meeting was January of 2021 is when we had our first meeting. It was at the Holiday Inn Eastgate and we had a large turnout. A lot of former Tea Party members, people from multiple counties. If I remember correctly, we covered Brown. I had a few people from Highland, mostly Claremont and Hamilton County, some Warren County, even some Butler County people came. So it was a large turnout, and you could tell from the first meeting, people were frustrated, but didn't know what to do. They didn't know, how can I get involved? What can I do? So Friends of Liberty was put together as a God-first grassroots committee to teach people how to get involved in politics. You could be anyone that's never been political and work with Friends of Liberty and have actionable items and learn how to be involved in politics.
Well,
and that's what we're about.
You know, you say that, and that kind of resonates with me because a lot of people that I knew was like, I'm mad, I'm upset, what do I do?
Right.
And everybody was looking for a direction to go. And that's what brought me towards the Friends of Liberty United was kind of a help everybody. Let's get people involved. Let's figure out what's going on. Point me in a direction to fight. And that's what I liked.
So Friends of Liberty is not just about Claremont County. We have worked with other grassroots leaders throughout the state of Ohio. We have what's called the Freedom Action Network, which is a part of what we're affiliated with that actually links through the state of Ohio through other grassroots groups to be more actionable, not just at the local level, but at the state level. Potentially, we would like to do more at the federal level, and that's the goal. But right now, there's some urgent needs in the state of Ohio at the state level and local level. So we've joined at the hip at other organizations so that we aren't just a Claremont County group. We want to be able to cover more. But we are very active in the education and in local politics of Claremont County. You probably have seen our people get involved in local elections. Recent Union Township trustee election, a lot of our people helped campaign with the new trustee board. We've gotten involved in the school board where at Forest Hills with the East Side Republican Club, who's ran by a friend of mine, Katie Buckman. She does a fantastic job. We were able to do a little bit to help them, but they deserve the kudos and credit for all the work they did of getting rid of 4 very bad board members of Forest Hills school districts and putting 4 conservative school board members on to change kind of what's going on in Forest Hills. We echoed those efforts into the Milford School Board, and at Milford we were able to put 2 solid conservative candidates on the Milford School Board to kind of balance out what has been going on in our education system.
Good. What was the response from these other groups when you put together Friends of Liberty United? What was their response when you kind of went to them?
They were absolutely encouraged.
Okay.
I've noticed a lot of people with positive feedback that we're not just a group that gets together and throw beanbags on boards and tries to raise money. We are actually doing things. Our One of our group leaders, Kim Martin, who will be in one of our future meetings, has done an outstanding job of taking medical freedom and making that a priority for Friends of Liberty. They've been very actively involved in pushing out the 248 fight to fight for medical freedom in Ohio. As we watched our legislators at the state kind of throw a bone in some aspects of how medical freedom is to be given in this state, we didn't get everything. Our medical workers are at the forefront of needing protection, and that's the focus of our we call it the Stop the Mandates Committee, but they're turning into more of Medical Freedom Committee because that's their main focus. And we need to protect our medical workers. We need to protect our first responders and make sure that that they aren't forced to take something that is experimental, may not have fully been vetted through all the proper medical channels, and have that forced to be stuck in their arm for them to work. What happened is you saw these mandates come down and healthcare workers stand up and say, I'm not giving in, and they were given walk-in papers. So we've been at rallies. We've been at St. Elizabeth's was a big rally last year. Thousands and thousands of people turned out to protest. And it wasn't a Republican versus Democrat thing. I saw plenty of Democrats out there with My Body, My Choice signs. It was one of the first times I really got to see the left and the right really join to a common theme and a common issue. And you've seen this division even in the Democrat Party of these mandates. There's a lot of them that are against the mandates. You'll see them stand up against it. And we saw that in these protests. Many people that you would not think would support our cause were out there supporting this cause. It was great.
Well, one of the things that hit me between the eyes, my stepson is a nurse. And in the beginning, they were heroes. Everybody was patting them on the back. You're heroes. Where they're just going, they were heroes. They were putting in ungodly hours. They were doing everything they could to help. And then after a while, then they become, well, if you don't take the shot, you're gone.
Right.
And that was just unnerving to me how that happened. So.
It should never be allowed. Our medical workers. I have many years in the medical field on the information technology side, so I wasn't a care deliverer, but I did spend time in the EDs. I spent time in surgery centers. I've been in the room during surgeries, and it's we rely a lot on our medical people. We need to make sure that they have the choice of taking care of themselves and not lose their job. So that's what our Stop the Mandates Committee is all about. They are an advocate for medical freedom, a true medical freedom, not the hand-me-down medical freedom that we see happening in Ohio, but true unconditional medical freedom for all. So, and we saw this in the schools. We were very active in fighting the mask mandates. I personally got more involved with Milford schools, but all over we were fighting mask mandates in schools. We were helping people write religious exemptions and providing information. One of I would call her one of our best resources within our committee. Her name's Maureen Green. Maureen has been an invaluable resource to that committee, former nurse, and she has helped people through COVID that has had it, through remedies to get them from having reactions that I feel sometimes the hospitals didn't give them the care that some of these patients needed. But Maureen has helped many people through some medical conditions, and we're very thankful to have her in the committee.
You mentioned Kim Martin. She's also a retired nurse, and so there's a lot of expertise on that committee.
Yeah, most of the people on that committee, we even have a physician that helps with that committee. We have lots of medical professionals in that committee. The leader is a former nurse, and I would call the vice leader, Mo, we call her, is another ex-nurse.
Clinical expertise.
Okay. Let's talk about some of the other groups that fall under the heading of Friends of Liberty United. You talked about Stop the Mandates. You've talked about the school boards. Let's talk about some of the other groups. There's a couple other ones on there.
So a gentleman by the name of Jerry Seipelt runs what's called our Election Integrity Group. And election integrity, as we all are aware, has become at the forefront of what we have been. We're at all. You look at election integrity isn't just about what we saw the Democrats do in this past election. Election integrity goes further than that. We have to be concerned with the way the ballots are dropped, the security around that, machines being connected to unsecured environments. We look at these things. So our election integrity committee has toured the Board of Elections. They've given out lists of things that are of concern. They're in the works of trying to write resolutions or ask them to make changes in the way that this stuff happens at our polls. For example, a lot of people don't understand this, but these people that you see working at the polls, they're allowed to lie to you. And you may think I'm joking. I've vetted this through our elections commission, Director Phil Richter. I've asked him this question. I've vetted this through our county prosecutor. A federal Supreme Court case ruled that it is considered freedom of speech when a person's working at the polls on a voluntary basis. I can tell you I'm endorsed by the Republican Party even though I'm not endorsed, and that's perfectly legal. Now that doesn't mean that they don't have a libel case, but that does mean that they are not going to be held on criminal charges of persuading voters or marketing to voters. And I think that's wrong. I think it's an integrity issue with our elections because many of the public come to those polls relying on endorsement tickets, or they may just be there. I'm going to hear from the people out there talking about their candidates. Well, you're relying on their information being accurate and true, and you're doing that in a span of 20 seconds because as you're walking into the polls, you're spending 20 seconds to a minute talking to these people, and you don't have time to vet the information. So you go in and you color in the dot based on what they say, and that is a huge responsibility, and we have seen that exploited as recent in this most recent election where former trustee, Mr. John McGraw, I worked next to him, and he was promoting central committee candidates as being endorsed, and that's wrong. So people were thinking that these people on the ticket were actually endorsed by the Republican Party, and they weren't. And that these are I consider that an election integrity issue. Sure. Because if people are being misinformed at the polls and it's legal to do that, we have to do something to change. And one of the ideas that I've proposed is that if we can get decent legislators in our Republican Party in Ohio, we need to go after the Supreme Court ruling that allows that to happen. There needs to be better refinement around the definitions of what's considered freedom of speech. Lying to the public at the polls, trying to get them to persuade them to voting for candidates, I can attest that violates some other areas of the Constitution. So I think it's a constitutional issue. I think that we could file action to have that reviewed and potentially turned around to stop this nonsense from happening. That's a very quick resolution to what I consider an election integrity issue that no one talks about.
Well, Bill, if I can chime in on that, and I'm trying to remember how that court decision was made, if that was in a state court or if that was a U.S. Supreme Court.
U.S.
But if it was based on the First Amendment to the U.S. Constitution, there's nothing the General Assembly can do about that.
Correct.
The only thing they could do is just pass a resolution asking for, a change in the Constitution.
Right.
And that has to be initiated by Congress.
My thoughts were around filing an action like a mandamus with the federal Supreme Court against the their ruling on this to question the ruling. I just feel that we have to do more. If a resolution is all we can do, then let's do it. But we need legislators that are going to get involved in this issue and do something about it. I think our two reps here locally that cover Claremont County are concerned about this issue. I've spoken to both of them, and I foresee some attention being around this. Maybe not 100% what I'm looking for, but definitely there are going to be some discussions in the future around this.
Let's talk about one of the groups that was very interesting to me was about getting Christians more involved in the vote.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And one of our later shows, we're going to have Doug Simpson come on and kind of do a program about why the Christians should get involved in voting.
He's awesome.
Yeah,
Awesome.
It's a great show. I believe we're going to have him on next in 2 weeks or so. But anyway, the Christians aren't getting involved. They're not being a part of the voting process. Doug has a real good facts and figures on how many Christians are getting involved in voting. And that's why I wanted to be more a part of Friends of Liberty United. If the Christians would get involved and vote God's principles as opposed of what they're getting from a certain candidate, this election will be over with by 10 o'clock.
Right.
And it would be over with. You want to expound on that a little bit?
Absolutely. I believe what I have seen in the Christian movement My salvation goes back to when I was 6 years old. So I've been a follower of God for many years, and I remember when I knelt down and accepted Christ. I remember that. Have I led a perfect Christian life? Absolutely not. None of us have. If we did, then there wouldn't be a need for Jesus. But the Christians have been, I feel, silenced and in a way of being oppressed. So we all have jobs, and we all provide for our families. Any Christian will tell you that they're afraid to talk. They're afraid of, if they say the wrong thing, if they talk about, if they disagree with, let's say they disagree with homosexuality. That's a hot topic. Everybody loves to exploit that right now. Let's say a Christian says they disagree with that lifestyle. They will be labeled. They will be ousted to their company.
Homophobes.
They will be torn apart. I did, when the Friends of Liberty was initially started, the Inquirer had done a review of this, and I made a comment in our first meeting around, and I actually sent a survey out that said, how many people on this committee would have a problem with a homosexual being on the committee. I sent a survey out. I don't regret it. I think it's important to understand where we stand. In the conservative movement, I know plenty of people that are homosexual that are Republicans and conservatives. Do we exclude them from our activities committee? If you're a Christian and you believe that homosexuality is a sin, lying's a sin, there are lots of sins. So I interviewed with the Inquirer, and they tried to catch me of being a homophobe, and I made it very difficult for them because sometimes you have to separate your political beliefs and your religious beliefs, but that doesn't mean you jeopardize your core Christian values. In other words, as a conservative, our Constitution states freedom of religion. That doesn't mean I promote Islamic, the Islamic religion in the boundaries of our country, but by the Constitution, I have to stand behind the allowance of it. I can disagree with something, but I constitutionally can say they have a right to do it. And I can love those people that are different from me, those that have chosen to be whatever religion they want to be. I can love them the same as I would love a fellow Christian. That's what we're called to do. That's what God tells us to do. So sometimes I think Christians live in a state of oppressed values that they feel like they can't take a stance and say, I don't agree with this, but I love you anyways. I don't agree with this, but I'm not going to rally against you. I think we can do that. I think we can, as Christians, get involved in these political movements. If your Christian values say that homosexuality is a sin, that's your right. Just as it's the right of somebody to be atheist in this country, or agnostic, or Catholic, or Presbyterian. We have that freedom. So what's happened is Christians have been kind of herded into this bucket, and that bucket's been sealed. And if the people are trying to reach out and speak out about God and God's principles, they are labeled. They're ousted. I've known people lose their jobs over this. We had an incident with NKU over a year ago where the director of women's studies on Brad Winstrup's page made a comment that was very derogatory. Labeled it. Right. Labeled Brad Winstrup. I sent a message to the dean of the school. He's the main guy at the school. It's either dean or chancellor. I think it's dean though at NKU. And had this discussion, and that teacher had nothing. She still was employed at NKU, no follow-up, nothing. Now, if a teacher at NKU had put up there that they felt that Jesse Jackson was a something or other, I promise you that teacher would have been terminated. Absolutely. We see that the left has more power than the right because companies have become woke. They have fallen in this bucket of silence where they have to follow the guidelines and rules of what the left tells them to follow. So the only way we can fix that is to get more people involved in this political grassroots movement, people to come out and actually speak up and stand together. It's going to take millions, not hundreds of thousands, millions of people to circumvent and fight what's happening on the extreme left. That doesn't mean you have to hate Democrats. You don't have to hate anyone. I think that the extremism on the polls, you have a left extreme and a right extreme, and they're a minority. Us Christians and us moderate Democrats, moderate Republicans, we're the majority. Yet we're sitting and conforming our value system to the minority, and that needs to stop. And that I call that upon the people to come in and get engaged in Friends of Liberty and learn what they can do to fix that.
Well, the Christian community is referred to as the silent majority. Folks, that's not a compliment. That's shameful. We should be more involved. Kind of moving ahead here, Bill. Obviously, you're trying to grow this movement.
Sure.
What type of people are you looking for when you bring that out? And what I'm going to do right now is, one of the things that we want to do on Friends of Liberty United is I'm going to give you our email address. And if you would, and I'll do it again a little later, but if you would please go ahead and any questions you have, we'll address it at the next showing. It's folunited@gmail.com. folunited@gmail.com. What are you looking for, Bill? What kind of people?
We just want everyday, self-thinking, grassroots individuals that stand for conservatism, I should say. No, really any type of people. I don't care who they are. If you are conservative and you feel oppressed and you feel helpless, we want you to join. That's who we want. What we don't want is we don't want people that are not willing to stand up and fight for conservative values. This is a war we're fighting. It's a spiritual battle. It's a spiritual battle for the soul of our country. It's a war that we're fighting against an extremism on the left. We've got some very, very, I would call deplorable things going on at the government in Washington that stand behind these people that loot and raid our businesses when they don't get their way, and they don't get condemned for it. But if you're on the right and you stand up, you get condemned. And not only condemned, you get treated excessively unfair. I would say, some of the things that I have seen of people on the right that have committed what the left would consider atrocities against humanity or atrocities against the country, treason they've called it. I won't debate what's going on with the January 6th stuff right now. There were some very, very bad things that happened in Washington that day. I mean, we all can stand by and say, we don't agree with everything that happened that day. There were some very bad things that happened. But what we can say is there are people that were present that didn't partake in those activities that have been singled out, persecuted, and treated extremely unfair. And people that have rioted and did things on the other side things have been looked the other way. Cases have been dismissed. It's sad. It's a sad state of affairs. People are actually wanting to join the extremism on the left to protect themselves, to make sure that they are part of a club or they're part of this, they get this free pass to do what they want. We see it in Union Township. I was at Dick's Sporting Goods. This was during peak COVID last year. And people were driving their cars up with no plates on it, running into the store, grabbing as much stuff as they could and run out to the car. That was not happening elsewhere. That was happening here in Union Township. It's hard to prosecute people because they don't have license plates. It's hard to identify them. They have masks on because you're required to wear masks in businesses. Well, of course they want you to wear masks in businesses. It makes it easier for the criminals to get away. I just feel that Christians have got to stand up and start, like Bill said, standing for God's principles and fighting the spiritual war of evil that we are faced against in our country.
Well, it's like a person that I always considered a mentor and somebody I listened to quite a bit. And he used to say, I don't know what fair looks like, but I sure know what unfair looks like. And I think we're heading down that route, and we've been at that route, and it's got to change. We have to stand. So pretty much what you're talking about is people with passion, people
Right.
that have chips in the game, so to speak. They have grandkids, they have kids. I often use the analogy that if little Johnny's on the bus and he's acting up and he's being a little character and the bus driver pulls over the side of the road and parks the bus, runs out and sets him in that chair and say, Johnny, if you keep this up, you're not going to ride this bus no more.
Right.
I guarantee you that mother will be at that bus stop the next day reaming out that bus driver for talking to her son the way he did. But we don't stand and fight for school boards. You know, the things our kids are being taught, the things that our kids are being indoctrinated. They don't do it. And I'll look at people and I'll say to them, you've got chips in the game, you got 2 kids. You've got to get involved.
Right.
So that's kind of what I look at on passion.
Right. We see it. The passion has to have. You have to have a strong backbone. I mean, social media has made it easy for the left to bully. I get ousted on social media all the time. I get people that attack me, attack my family, post things. You just can't let it bother you. You gotta let it go. Let it not get to you. And that's difficult. I mean, people love their family and people take pride in their legacy. But at the end of the day, it's not about us. This is about the soul of the country. And I think passion needs to be rooted from the ability to look past self-interest, looking past pride, and moving on to the purpose of why we're doing what we're doing. And that can be a daily reflection. I struggle. I've told people in my meetings, I struggle every day. I mean, sometimes you have to look at your actions and say, is what I'm doing for me or is it for the good of the cause? And if you find that it's what's good for you, then you're not really running from passion, you're running from self-interest. Passion has to be driven from your ability to look at the end game and fight for it. And that's what I believe.
Great. I certainly appreciate everything. I want to give John Becker, who's our Union Township trustee, and John was also the former state rep for the 65th District. And I've worked with John on some projects. John has always been on the what I say the correct side of an issue. And I welcome you here. And what's going on in Union Township?
I appreciate that, Bill. Hey, first off, I did want to make some comments about Friends of Liberty. When I got engaged in politics back in the early 90s, and this was when Bill Clinton got elected, and that's what prompted me to get involved in politics, because I needed to do more than just vote. What happened shortly after that was a movement called Christian Coalition. And we had Claremont Christian Coalition, which I was involved in. Fast forward to, some decades later, you had the Tea Party movement that occurred. And then, that fizzled out eventually. Now we have Friends of Liberty United. So I appreciate that group, taking over from there. So in terms of Union Township, I recently put a guest editorial in the Claremont Sun, and I itemized just kind of a number of things we're doing. Just kind of started with some history, kind of year to date, what's been going on in the township, and with changes in administration and staff and such. But I do just kind of want to go down a laundry list of bullet points of what's going on. So kind of one of the most exciting things we got going on is a farmers market. We've never done anything like that before. It's at the Union Township Civic Center. It's in the front parking lot. It's every Friday, and it's going to go through the end of October, and it's from 4 to 7. And it's growing every week now with the number of vendors and the number of people attending. So I got a couple of favorites that I like to go to every week. One of them is called Happy Cows, and they have flavored milk. They got chocolate. They got I think I call it like a vanilla cake or something. An orange sickle cream. I just got that one last week. And I think they have also plain. This is all whole milk, and it's all pasteurized. So it's really good stuff. They also have cheese curds, which are great to snack on. It's just those, outstanding. Yeah. There's another booth that's serving chocolate products. They're gluten-free. I'm not, gluten-free doesn't mean anything to me, but I love chocolate. So, brownies, cookies. You got a peanut butter mix brownie thing with the chocolate, so I'm all over that stuff. There's also a booth that's got pure 100% maple syrup. Got a bottle of that and whipped up some waffles. That was really good, and somebody else providing honey. So it's all these farm products, kind of food related. Also, the Happy Cows place, they have eggs. Then it's kind of a multi-color. Some are kind of brown and orangish and kind of various shades. So it's all really good stuff, and it's all been very popular. And the person who's been organizing all of that, her name is Brenda at the Civic Center. So if anybody wanted to get involved, wanted to be a vendor, they would just contact Brenda, and she would get you set up for that. So also we got going on every week. So this is well, I shouldn't say every week. So it's typically every Saturday night at either 7 or 8 o'clock, depending on the band. So it's these free, I say free in quotation marks, concerts, because it's paid for by the taxpayers. So this week is going to be, it's called the Monday Night Big Band, and that's going to be at 7 p.m. So I don't think there's going to be another one for 2 weeks. I think the following week might be the St. Veronica Festival.
Okay.
Gotcha.
So we try not to overlap any of the area festivals. So those concerts are great. I always like the brass band kind of stuff, and also the rock from 70s and 80s kind of my era. So it's always good to visit. So also something new we've done in Union Township, and the first in Claremont County, is the Safe Haven Baby Box. So what that is it's at the firehouse that's it's on Old 74 between Holman Motors and Fairfax Credit Union, that firehouse. So there's a baby box there. So what this is for mothers in distress. They have a newborn. Usually they're young, they're scared, they don't know what to do, they don't know who to turn to. And what we've seen is, this has happened everywhere, these horrific examples of these babies winding up in trash cans or flushed down toilets. I mean, just horrible things. So these baby boxes have saved lives, and that's what we like doing. I mean, it's one thing to call yourself pro-life and maybe write a resolution declaring your township pro-life, something of that extent. But this is where the rubber meets the road. This is proving it.
This is doing something.
This is doing something very concrete, something very real. That's an option out there for mothers and to save some lives. And then and that gives an option to a loving family and to adopt that child.
Sure.
So it's a win-win for everybody.
Yeah, Trustee Becker, I have a question about that. So
Sure.
have you guys at the board talked about advancing baby boxes more throughout Union Township? Has that been a topic of discussion, or has this just been kind of a trial and then see if there's a need for more?
Well, it has not been discussed, and that's a good question. I hadn't even thought about it. I guess we're going to kind of see how this goes, but I kind of take the approach of, well, we hope we never need the baby box. We hope nobody ever uses it. We also hope nobody ever calls EMS or calls fire. We hope nobody ever calls the police. Okay. But we need all these services, we hope we don't, but they're there for when they're needed. And the baby box, we'll see. I mean, if we do find a baby in there someday, we know that was a life that was saved. Sure. And that'll be a great day.
Have you gotten a lot of opposition for the baby box, or have you been receiving a lot of positive feedback?
Well, there's always the one-off out there somewhere.
Sure.
But generally speaking, this has been all very, very positive and celebrated in the pro-life community.
Well,
and
what
such.
could be negative? Why would somebody be negative about it?
Well, there was one individual at the trustees meeting last night that was making some outrageous political claims, based on his scenarios and narratives, that this was all about a photo op and using taxpayer money to further political careers. So we allow anybody to come to a trustees meeting and spout off whatever they want at the podium, and they can frankly say whatever they want to say, and that's what occurred last night. Okay. Fortunately, we also had a lady there, Monica. I don't remember her last name.
Kelsey, the CEO.
That sounds right. Yes. That she, I think, is the founder of this organization.
Yes, yeah.
And it's a nationwide organization. She's located in Indiana, so she drove 3 hours to be at the meeting. And she also spoke and got a lot of things straightened out for the public.
I looked into Baby Safe Haven, and their statistics are astounding. In Arkansas, 100 since the date of when they tracked this, 100% drop in abandoned babies, deaths. And for those that don't understand what that is, it's mother comes in and they want to abandon the baby. They'll find the baby in dumpsters, babies abandoned and just in the woods. this safe haven box, I take it, gives an alternative to mothers that don't want to be identified.
Right.
They don't want to be ousted for giving up their baby. They place the baby in this box. The box is set up conditionally for the baby to lay safely. It triggers a 911 call.
That's right.
And people respond. Police, fire, emergency services. It's a 911 call that, hey, this box has been alerted, and they're there, in a flash.
Yes. So, what would happen is you open the door. The mother would open the door, place the baby in. There's also some pamphlets of information in there that she could take with her. And when she closes that door, it's locked. She cannot open it again. Nobody can. It can only be accessed from the inside. And this baby box, it's HVAC controlled, heated and air conditioned.
Nice. Yeah.
The alarm goes off to 911. Then somebody gets dispatched well, if it's in a firehouse, so usually there's somebody there anyway, to then take care of this baby. So the baby would then get taken to Claremont Mercy, where the baby would then be checked out and then be turned over to, I guess, Children's Services from there, where it would be put up for adoption.
That's great.
Well, I could see young women, young girls, not knowing what to do, panicking. Maybe
Sure,
they've
of
hid
course.
this pregnancy throughout their whole
That happens.
9 months in the family. Nobody knows, and she's
happens.
scared to pieces. So
Absolutely.
I could see that. I could see a lot of fear. They don't know what to do.
And I would assume the trustees are more than open. I mean, this sounds like something you put one out to pilot it, see what could be done you can improve it, things that could be better. There have been suggestions of putting some additional resource material at the box. We have a pregnancy resource center ran by one of the folks in Friends of Liberty out in Brown County. Great resource for mothers that are struggling. I think that anytime you bring something like this into a township, there's always going to be room to advance or make it better. I assume the trustees are always welcome for input of how they can better the program.
Of course.
Yeah. So.
Come to a trustees meeting and tell us what we're doing right, what we're doing wrong, and whatever suggestions you have.
That's great.
Absolutely.
I'm impressed that the trustees have taken a public stance and advancing. I believe we're the only ones in Claremont County that have implemented this
Yes.
baby box. You've got lots of Republicans out there saying they're pro-life, but we have babies that abortion. It doesn't just stop with abortion. There are babies that are born that we need to protect those lives as well and make sure they're taken care of. This is just another step forward. So thank you for all your hard work, you and the trustee board.
It's a board decision. I wasn't the one who initiated that. I believe it was Trustee Dills that I think it was his idea. So he's the one that should get the credit for that. So moving to the next topic, what I want to get into is leashed dogs in the parks.
Yeah, that has been discussed.
And this was it's kind of interesting that for whatever reason, Union Township, and this is based on the research our administrator did, and I didn't know any of this until actually she told me. Union Township, and I don't have a dog. I'm not a dog person. I got 3 cats. The Union Township is the only government entity who does not allow dogs in their parks. She said some of the parks are kind of agnostic on it. They just don't address it, whether you can or can't have dogs. Some parks specifically do allow dogs. So actually there is one in Claremont County. It's called Shore Park. It's on Teal Town. And that park is actually run by the county. It's not a township park. We did, I'm going to correct myself here, we did have one of the parks. It was at Ivy Point. Ivy Point Park was a dog park. And the reason I say was because it's no longer our park. We sold that park to a TQL because they're doing expansion out there. But that was the only dog park we did have in Claremont County. So after we sold that, we didn't have any, I said the only dog park in Union Township. After we sold that, we didn't have any dog parks then. Of course, the one, again, Shore Park is a dog park, but that's a county park, not a township park. So, so there was some discussion about this in one of the trustees meetings about, should we have dogs or allow them or not? I put something on social media, and there was a whole lot of feedback. Most of it was very much in favor of allowing dogs in the park. A lot of it was in favor with certain stipulations. They have to be on leashes. They can't be in play areas. When I say play areas, it'd be soccer fields, baseball fields, children, swing sets. They can't be in those play areas. They have to be required to, scoop their own poop, have, doggy bags or, little poop bags available, which is what we implemented. Then we did, and it looked like about 80% of the public was for it, and about 20% was opposed. And, and the people opposed, I respect that, but, when you have overwhelmingly 80% that want to do this, and we have those controls that, that I just mentioned. They have to be on leashes, they have to pick up their own poop, and we're supplying bags for them to do that. So that's something new that's in Union Township. So if you want to take your dog through Veterans Park or Klepper Park, now you are allowed to do that legally.
I do have a quick question about
Yes, sir.
that for the people viewing at home. So if there is a violation at the park to the resolution, how is that a resolution enforceable? Is it a law, or what can be done to enforce a resolution made by a trustee board to a police law enforcement entity?
That's a great question. And for all practical purposes, there is no and cannot be any enforcement. So all this time, people have been walking dogs in Veterans Park and Klepper Park, and it's not like we can send a police officer to arrest somebody or cite them, because the police have better things to do than worry about who's walking their dogs where. So, could people be cited? Could it be enforced? Yes, it's just not practical to do. We'd much rather have our police doing drug interdictions and more important things than worry about who's walking their dog.
Right.
So yeah, I guess the only way these rules could be or would be enforced in terms of actually citing people is if somebody got real abusive and out of hand with it, and it was just a repeat obnoxious offender, something of that nature.
Sure.
But a routine, somebody walking their dog or whatever, no.
Right.
We're not going to send the cops after them.
Right. Gotcha.
Okay, so we also, speaking of parks, have created a new Parks and Recreation Citizens Committee. So, so that's, just regular citizens that are interested in getting engaged and what's going on with the township. And so they are going to be, kind of monitoring the parks, seeing how things are going with the dog situation, letting us know, what resources they need or what changes they want to see in the parks. So that's going to be helpful to see how that works out. TQL, they've added 1,000 jobs with their expansion at their sprawling Union Township campus. We're still waiting to hear from Kroger. So what we do know is they bought the old Sears store at the Eastgate Mall. A lot of speculation what's going to happen there. Are they going to move their Eastgate store across from there, the Mount Carmel store? We're waiting for Kroger to make an announcement of what they're going to do, and that announcement is expected soon. So everybody's kind of that could be a game changer for the mall. So this could be real exciting. However, we just don't know what they're going to do. Is it going to be a warehouse, office space? We don't know. So we just don't know. So a couple other things. We got Tazaki's Mediterranean Cafe has just opened up in Cherry Grove. My wife and I were just there over the weekend. Great place. Thumbs up to them. Something else that's going in is a Sportsman's Warehouse. That's going into the old Steinmart, where this is across from Jungle Gyms. There's that shopping center across from there. And it looked like last time I drove by it, they were doing some rehab in there. So it looks like they're actively getting ready to move in. So looking forward to them opening up. There's also a Outback Steakhouse that's going to be moving into the old Starbucks building, where there used to also be a video store. I think it's like a triplex, and this is near Myers. So that building's going to get torn down, and it's going to be a Outback Steakhouse. Where the old, so I'm moving down to Ohio Pike, on the corner of Ohio Pike and 9 Mile Road, there was an old Wendy's. It's looked really nasty for a long time, been boarded up. That's going to come down, and I think fairly soon. So it looks like that's going to be an oil change place, Rapid 5, I think it's called, or Take 5 oil change. And they have an interesting, I looked them up on the internet, who are these people, what do they do? So their schnick is, or if I'm understanding it correctly, so you drive into one of these oil change bays, you never get out of your car. You just sit there, you ride up in the air, or, well, I guess I don't know if they put it in the air, if there's somebody underneath, in a trench. Either way, I guess now I'm thinking about for safety purposes, it's probably better using the trench technique than have somebody in their car riding up in the air, but I don't know. And then, you get your oil changed, and I guess you hand somebody a credit card out the window. I don't know how that works. And So that'll be, I'll take it over what's there now. We're going to get rid of that old Wendy's, so that's a good thing. Then also something that's going to be happening, it probably won't be till, certainly not going to be this year, so it just takes time to do these things. But a lot of people talk about Diego's Tacos. It's a taco truck at the Exxon gas station on the corner of Tealtown Road and Old 74. Mm-hmm. I haven't been there yet, but I'm told you got to go to Diego's Tacos. I'm looking forward to that. They're going to actually be building a building across the street. And, I guess I'm not sure if it's the owners of Diego. I think it's actually, I'm going to take it back. I think it's the owners of that Exxon gas station is going to be building the building across the street. There used to be an old church there. And that's at the corner of Tealtown and Old State Route 74. And the Diego's Taco truck, which is just a truck parked in the Exxon parking lot, that's going to be then moving into a brick and mortar establishment, I think, with a drive-up window as well. Plus, I think there's going to be like a whipped up creamery, ice cream shop over there as well. So that's kind of what's going on for the present and the future in Union Township.
Good.
So just a couple questions for you. Anything in Mount Carmel planned? I know that's a big hot topic with the citizens over in Mount Carmel. Over years, they've kind of felt neglected in the previous trustee boards, and it has been kind of a neglected area. So any future plans for Mount Carmel?
That's a great question, and that is a valid concern. That's something we are concerned about. Something we've talked about kind of with some casual conversations has to do with a DORA. So that's what's DORA stand for? Designated, I don't know, it's a drinking area where you can kind of walk between bars up and down the sidewalk, open container. So it's where the open container laws are I guess, waived for these particular area. They're called, that's an acronym for DORA.
The city of Milford did this.
Yeah, it's a DORA district. I think Loveland may as well.
Loveland as well.
So we talked about doing one in that area. I'm not sure where the best place is. So we've also talked about having one down at that Mount Carmel Brewery. But there's, other than the brewery itself, that area really doesn't lend itself to DORA.
And the sidewalks are a little challenging too.
Yeah. So, and what may be actually the best place for a DORA is up by Jungle Gyms with RJ Cinema. They have their outdoor patio and something that we may connect something like that with the Civic Center because we got the amphitheater back there. So that's another possibility of having, some kind of, walkway going from our amphitheater while we got concerts going on down toward, the Jungle Gyms area and RJ Cinema. So there's a lot of possibilities for DORA and somewhere in Union Township, but specifically to the area that you mentioned in Mount Carmel. We're concerned about it, we're looking at it, but we don't have any specific plans yet.
And then as everybody thinks about Eastgate Mall in the future, not just the Sears area that Kroger has purchased, but the mall as an entity has really diminished. With online stores, Amazon, it's really taken a toll on malls. Except since Kenwood Mall has been able to sustain this business model. Bring in an Apple store, bring an Apple store into Eastgate Mall, it'll change the game. The farmers market, I had some thoughts around that. I have not been to one yet. I'm out of town a lot on weekends. But has there been a lot of business? I mean, has it been crowded?
Last week it was. Yeah, there was and it's there from 4 to 7. And I'm fine, you really need to get there early. Because I think last time I got there this past Friday, I think I got there at like 5 o'clock, my wife and I. And a lot of stuff was sold out.
Wow.
So getting there closer to 4 is really the way to do it. And yeah, there was a lot of people milling around.
So I wonder, if you thought about during the winter, so you have October as the cutoff for the farmers market. If there's enough need or demand for the milk products and things that you produce over the winter, obviously not all farm products are produced over the winter, but driving some of that organic business into the mall and driving some growth into the mall from that time, because the mall rents out spaces, leases spaces seasonal. Some thoughts there, getting an Apple store, these are all thoughts that I've had of how can we redevelop the mall to make it more attractive, because we go there and eat at the food court. That they have the the Szechuan chicken, teriyaki chicken. I think my daughter loves that. So we go there at the mall and eat at the food court, but that's about it. Bath and Body Works, occasionally Kohl's, but there's a lot more there at the mall And I know people all the time are like, what are we going to do about our mall?
Well, it's privately owned,
Sure.
and I think there's a new owner, or relatively new. The anchor stores have veto power over kind of anything that happens there, so they have to be all in sync and approving whatever redevelopment is going to occur. So you got a lot of dynamics going on that the township really has no control or involvement in.
Sure.
The only thing I suppose we could do is actually just purchase the mall, which it may come to that point at some time in the future, but probably not in the near future. It's not ready for that yet, and the mall is currently in bankruptcy, my understanding.
Yeah, there's.
So we're kind of limited what we can do, at least in the short term. with
Remember
that.
Forest Fair Mall out in Forest
Yeah.
Park?
Yeah.
I mean, it was huge, and it was supposed to be a
Yeah.
big success, and it tanked. Tri-County Mall was always like, it was Kenwood Mall years ago, and it's.
I remember when they
suffering.
added the second floor to the
Right.
Tri-County Mall.
Yeah, and it's tanking.
Well,
And-
I think they're in the process of redeveloping that now.
Yeah, they had to put a stake in the ground and say we got to do something. They'd lost too much business. Somehow Kenwood Mall has just been able to prevail for the times. They've been able to. They keep the fresh and new stores. They have things that are people want. You want to get your iPhone fixed. The Apple Store, they get a lot of business from the Apple Store. I mean, people go there, and you have to make appointments, so they're shopping while they're waiting on their appointments. A Cheesecake Factory, I mean, 2-hour wait every time you go there.
Yeah.
So these are all things that I think has helped Kenwood Mall. People are waiting their turn for something. They're shopping the mall while
Yep.
they're waiting to
Yep.
eat or waiting to get their phone fixed. These are good concepts that I think if we work with the mall owners to try to drive some of that. I mean, we definitely need another Apple store in Cincinnati.
Yeah, I'd love to see some of those stores. The Cheesecake Factory. I'd like to see one of those in Union Township. I'd like to see a Grater's in Union Township.
Yeah.
There's a lot of fun places
I
I'd
knew
like
you
to
was
see.
going to bring up Graders.
Yeah, I sneak into Cherry Grove from time to time to visit the Graders down there. Hey, a couple of things I wanted to mention when you're back on Farmers Market. So there hasn't been a whole lot in the way of produce that has occurred because it's still kind of early in the season.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to have more and more of that as time goes on. But there's currently people selling, I know, spinach, lettuce. I think different things are being sold, but there's like no corn yet. I think I saw some cucumbers last week were being sold. So the produce is going to continue to increase as time goes on also.
Great.
And the last thing out on my list I want to talk about is kind of shifting gears. So this is being filmed on June the 15th on a Wednesday. So also this evening then on the 5, I believe the 5 or 5:30 newscast on Channel 12, I am going to be featured, where they did a reporter came out to my house, and this was she picked this up from social media because I had posted something on Nextdoor talking about Rumpke trash collection, and it really wasn't anything about Rumpke specifically. I just said, hey, I just looked at my Rumpke bill, just got it in the mail. It's $120, $121, whatever it was, for 3 months of service. And I just put it out there. I said, is there any alternatives out there? Who else provides garbage service in Union Township? And I think there's Republic Services, and there might be another one, Waste Management Services. I'm not sure. I need to look into that. And so a lot of people chimed in talking about the fuel surcharge and various complaints and whatnot. And it is on social media. It's the Wild West. So anyway, from that, Channel 12 News, Local 12, reached out to me and said, hey, we'd like to come out and have an on-camera interview with you. It's like, okay. So they did, and that's supposed to air tonight.
Okay.
So
We'll watch it.
We'll see how. And something else we talked about, and I brought this up at the trustees meeting last night. So what about aggregation? So we do or have done aggregation for natural gas. We've done it for electricity. We're currently out of both of those because of the price volatility. We're not renewing those at this time. Some communities do aggregation for trash collection.
Yes.
So that's something we'll look into and consider. Don't know if we will or not, but it is something we're going to take a look at for the future.
Great. Thank you, Trustee Becker.
Yeah.
Very informative.
Once again, I want to thank both of you being here tonight. John Becker, sounds like Union Township's going in the right direction, and I'm sure it will. And Bill, I'm looking forward to seeing you more and more about things that are going on with Friends of Liberty United. And folks, our website is, or not our website, if you have any questions, it's FOLU libertyunited@gmail.com. Please write your questions down. We'll address them. And as always, I think you should be informed, be involved. Don't get your news from CNN. If you hear something, by all means, go out and investigate it yourself. Let's be informed voters. Let's be involved. We've got a voice. I hope we use it. I hope you see some merit in Friends of Liberty United and possibly get with Bill, start attending a couple meetings whenever they're there. And I think it's something you'll find that you would like to get involved in. I want to thank everybody again today, and God bless, and we'll see you later. We'll have another one in a couple weeks. God bless.
Thank you.